Good evening and welcome to the first day of whatever comes after a democracy. President Trump has been arrested and charged with no less than 34 felonies. A beautiful day for all the victims of the past 8 years of the media's predatory propaganda who don't recognize what's happening. Tonight, we'll have the full report on Trump's arrest, as well as some nuanced details on this political persecution that some people probably don't want you to know. And if you haven't aborted your children yet, the arrest and upcoming trial of President Trump is setting a new legal precedent in America that will have you wondering, what kind of country will my children be living in when they're grown up? The new precedent breaks the outdated tradition in the American justice system where people who serve the public prosecute criminals. That's being replaced with a third world approved system where criminals prosecute people who serve the public. It's very progressive, so much so that it's in fact funded by George Soros. More on that later. But first, as you know by now, President Trump's arrest stems from alleged hush money payments his attorney made to porn star Stormy to keep quiet about alleged sexual encounters with Trump. Now, if their affair was in fact true, she obviously doesn't know how to keep her mouth shut. But for a woman who's used to making money by opening her mouth, her confusion on the arrangement is understandable. Perhaps Trump could learn a lesson from the Clintons, who have a much better system of using hush money shotgun blasts to the chest to help encourage their associates to keep quiet. Now, who's going after President Trump? That's a good question, but first, let's take a look at the why. Summarized by this chart of scientifically analyzed data, you can see that the deep state, which definitely doesn't exist, fears President Trump. In the name of serving Americans, President Trump has vowed to dismantle the deep state. Take a look.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all.
That's unfair, because the deep state is a superb group of very unelected people that undemocratically attempt to control you by installing and controlling politicians, inundating you with a constant stream of mind-numbing propaganda, and putting on a theatrical political show to help you make believe that a democracy is still happening. Stripping away your rights in the name of protecting you is the calling card of the deep state. But unfortunately, President Trump has proved to be uncontrollable to the deep state and their associated special interest groups, where he stays dedicated to serving the American people rather than serving their agenda, which makes him a right-wing extremist. Take a look at him calling them out during the 2016 presidential debate with W. Bush's brother, who nobody cares about.
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How tough is it?
A lot of times, that's all of his donors and special interests out there. So, that's what it is. And by the way, let me just tell you, we needed tickets. You can't get them. You know who has the tickets I'm talking about to the television audience? Donors, special interests, the people that are putting up the money. So it is. The RNC told us we have all donors in the audience, and the reason they're not loving me, the reason they're not loving me is I don't want their money. I'm going to do the right thing for the American public. I don't want their money. I don't need their money. And I'm the only one up here that can say that.
Clearly, Trump is a problem. And in the name of protecting the deep state from the American people, we've needed to take him down. The January 6th witch hunt, the impeachments, and the Russian collusion hoaxes unfortunately weren't enough. But we think we've got him this time. But who is the hero of communism prosecuting Trump, and who's behind him? Well, prosecuting district attorney from Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, is the man behind Trump's arrest. And the deep state certainly isn't backing him because, remember, they don't even exist. Now, in a moment, we'll be back with a deep dive into the fine gentlemen who are behind Trump's arrest. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey there! If you're not really a fan of the deep state, but you are a fan of people who are against the deep state, you can show your support by grabbing this shirt at the shop link below. Welcome back. I don't know how that ad got in there, but Alvin Bragg is the them-there who is heading the mob with Trump's arrest. But who is backing Alvin Bragg? It turns out it's George Soros, who is definitely not part of the deep state, which doesn't exist. This just in! Gaslighting. There's unfortunately been theories floating around the internet that Soros, who hates Trump, essentially bought Bragg when he donated $1 million to his campaign. But luckily, fact checkers have been working overtime to desperately deny that claim. An inundation of fact checks and mainstream media propaganda trying to control the narrative about Soros backing Bragg scientifically explains how Soros donating $1 million to Alvin Bragg is in no way influencing him or buying him. He wasn't bought. Buying someone is something you do with money. Soros didn't use money, he used a lot of money. So it's different. The influence you have over someone with $1 million is minuscule. For example, your employer might buy you with a $50,000 a year salary. And then buying you with this amount of money completely dictates how you spend your time and what you do 5 days a week. So claiming Soros bought Alvin Bragg with $1 million is non-factual. It wouldn't influence him at all. It'd practically be like giving $1 million to someone else. And as long as we're telling you what the facts are, let us remind you that men can get pregnant and the you-know-what will definitely stop transmission. Alvin Bragg is simply doing his job. And on his job, he's been shockingly soft on crime, which has helped New York succeed in having an escalating rate of crime. And him going hard after Trump is simply in line with his soft on crime approach. He's also had a track record of prosecuting approximately 0 crimes of a similar nature, so nothing unusual, politically motivated, or financially motivated by anybody who has influence over Bragg, which is obviously nobody. But what if George Soros was in some way linked to the money that he gave Alvin Bragg's campaign? Seems far-fetched, but if that were the case, you could consider a report that Soros has economically destroyed 15 countries. And he's going for 16. But that report came from a media outlet that Soros doesn't control, so it's probably unreliable information. But the leftist plot thickens because some reality theorists speculate that Soros has an agenda to destroy America with open borders, globalization, drug legalization, abortion, mass immigration, defunding the police, increased crime, and atheism. All facilitated by getting radical leftists elected to do his bidding with public policy. And before you bring it up, Soros paying $3 million of dark money to radical BLM activists was just to incite peace through riots. And because George Soros isn't doing what he's doing and definitely isn't part of the deep state that doesn't exist who's trying to get Trump out of their way, there's a rather intense PR effort to shape the narrative about Soros and his agenda. As the world's leading medical authority, Bill Gates, always says, the more honest you are, the more you have to control everything that's said about you and what you're trying to do. Completely abolishing the First Amendment would help the truth shine through. It's also worth noting something else that they don't want you to know. MRC Business published a report on Soros's influences over the media. The study showed that between 2016 and 2020 alone, Soros paid at least $131 million to influence 253 media groups. The study also showed that at least 54 prominent media figures are linked to Soros's money. So for the love of power, you can see Soros does not use money to influence anyone, including Alvin Bragg, who he gave $1 million to. So as far as what we want you to think, case closed on the idea that Trump's arrest has anything to do with a political persecution. This just in! Nancy Pelosi says that Trump will have a chance to prove his innocence. Now that's the opposite of how the American justice system works, yet the exact way political persecutions work. Probably just a coincidence. And speaking of political persecutions, where one party or dictator imprisons their political opponents, it's never happened before in America. We're used to seeing it only in dictatorships and third world whole places. Examples of dictatorships in other places who have imprisoned or done worse to their political rivals are Stalin in the Soviet Union, Hitler in Germany, Castro in Cuba, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Putin in Russia, and Zelensky in Ukraine. Now, when it comes to corrupt politicians locking up their political rivals, it's important to remember 3 things. Number 1, that only happens in other places. Number 2, that could never happen here. And number 3, when you see the same thing happening here in the US with Trump's arrest, it's essential to be in denial about what you're seeing. A willingness to gaslight yourself is a really helpful asset to us, so we can keep getting away with it. That's it for tonight's news. Trump is arrested, our democracy has never been stronger, and what you're seeing happening here could never happen here, because we're telling you it's not. Good night! Don't tell anybody what I'm about to tell you, but I love the Bond Charge infrared sauna blanket. Bond Charge is a brand that I love and trust. I've become a raving fan of their premium wellness products, and the infrared sauna blanket is atop of my list. One of my biggest problems is stress, so I'm always looking for ways that can help me with that. But also fitness is important to me, burning fat is important to me, and detoxing is important to me. And I've fallen madly in love with the infrared sauna blanket because it helps me check all of those boxes. This beauty is easy to use. It takes me less than a minute to set it up. Plus, unlike a lot of sauna systems on the market that are big and bulky and take up a lot of space in your home, the infrared sauna blanket doesn't. It's compact. When you're done with it, you roll it up and put it away. And most other infrared sauna systems on the market are super expensive, but the infrared sauna blanket by Bond Charge is the most cost-effective infrared sauna system I've ever found. Plus, it's potent AF. I usually go for 40 minutes at a time, and when I'm done, I feel renewed, more energized, and I'm very detoxed. Bond Charge ships worldwide in rapid time, has easy return and exchange policies, plus a 12-month warranty. If you want to take control and start up-leveling your health in a major way, check out the infrared sauna blanket at bondcharge.com/JP. And while you're there, use the discount code JP for a full 15% off. Enjoy.